Hey everyone! First of all, thank you so much for coming back to Ideal Remake for Season 6. I got a lot of fun episodes already in the can that I'm so excited to share with you. But I wanted to break into this first episode before everything got started because I have to offer a little bit of a clarification. At the time of recording this, we ended up casting the actor Lance Reddick in one of the roles. I'm not going to tell you which one, you still have to listen to the episode, but he hadn't passed away yet. And so I felt it was important to acknowledge the fact that the world tragically lost an incredibly talented actor. So it seemed weird to release the episode where we go with him as our choice and not comment on it. It's really sad, and hopefully I never need to do this again. But for now, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy Season 6. And now, for the remake of The Rock. So hit that music.
Dueling genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. And we're back for Season 6 after a hiatus just to get started for you. And you may have thought we weren't ready to podcast. But we're warming up. So, Chris, is The Rock a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It has not been. I kind of don't think it will be. I don't know if it should be, but it'll be a lot of fun to talk about doing it.
Yeah, this is a weird instance where genuinely this might not fall into any of the categories. So therefore, it must be a will be. Because I don't think it should be, and it definitely has not been. So we just kind of have to function under the assumption that it probably will be eventually.
Yeah. Maybe decades from now, after Michael Bay's terrible drone accident, he's got to recoup some sort of costs or something, and it gets some sort of money somehow. And it's like, well, there's always money in the banana stand of remaking The Rock.
I mean, at the end of the day, he made it for a studio, so Michael Bay doesn't have to be involved. It's just some other whoever.
Bruckheimer.
Sure, that's not who I went with, but that's fine. But hey, Chris, it's been a year and a half since you've been on the show, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I am Chris O'Connor of the Dueling Genre Podcast Network of podcasters. You might have heard me on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Minute, which we haven't really talked in a minute.
Didn't you just have a new episode?
We did just have a new episode to talk about the trailer for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that good old Seth Rogen is putting out. It should be out in August. And there's a good chance that me and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Minute crew will get together to talk about that. Probably not a minute at a time, because that's a big commitment.
You mean the TMN team?
Yeah. Well done.
I can't be the first person who said that.
Well, I'm sure it's been said in some other context about some other group of, maybe about the Turtles themselves. But it's the first I've heard it, and I appreciate it.
Wonderful.
The TMN team.
So you've previously been on to remake Logan's Run and High Spirits.
Yes.
Two equally well-known movies.
I mean, Logan's Run, I think, is well known to Generation X and to writers and just older people and people who pay attention to science fiction. I think know Logan's Run, but very few people knew High Spirits.
What's crazy is that in the intervening time, I've had more cause to bring up the movie High Spirits than I have had to bring up Logan's Run.
Yeah.
Occasionally you need to say, and Fish from the Sea. But beyond that, sometimes people just need to know that High Spirits exist so they can go out of their way to go get it.
Yeah. And it's not like you have to go very far,
No. Is it still free on YouTube?
Pretty sure. Almost certainly. Sorry, stars.
Yeah. Sorry, Liam Neeson.
Daryl Hannah.
Oh, no.
Gutenberg.
Daryl Hannah.
Steve
Gutenberg.
Yeah.
It's a great cast and a fine movie.
D'Angelo? Diabo? Anyway.
The important thing is that it exists.
It does exist.
But we're not here to talk about perennial classic High
Yeah,
Spirits today. We're here to talk about The
actual
Rock.
classic.
True. Chris, do you remember the first time you saw The Rock?
I'm not certain what it had to be a rental because this came out in 96. I was 14. There's no way my parents took me to see an R-rated movie in theaters. Do you happen to have like the exact release time like
No, but I can get
handy?
it.
I'm almost certain I didn't see this in theaters, and we must have rented it. I was old enough at 14 that like we would go to Blockbuster, and it's okay if I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this movie because I remember like watching. Wait, did Con Air come before The Rock or
This came
after?
out June 7th, 1996. Con Air is 1997, so Con Air is
Oh, okay.
like
So
a
this was
year later.
first.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, I can't recall the specifics. Like I can't remember what couch I was sitting on or who made the popcorn, but I know, this was a blockbuster night,
Yeah.
and it was amazing.
And it came out the day after I turned 8 years old.
So you didn't see it in theaters either.
No, I did not. I actually didn't see it until I moved to LA. So I saw it for the first time 5, 6 years ago. I've
Oh
mentioned this
wow.
before on the show, but like I have my friend Cam does like a movie nights of movies Sam hasn't seen.
Yeah,
And so we
yeah.
watched The Rock. And then like 2 years later on another movie nights of movies Sam hasn't seen, someone described this movie to me. And I was like, I haven't seen that. And so then we watched The Rock again. And 5 minutes into the movie, I was like,
Oh
I
yes,
think
I
I've
have.
watched this movie with you before, but we're not going to stop it now.
Oh no, not that memorable, huh? All right.
Well, not based on the description, because I'm like,
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, they have to break into Alcatraz. I'm like, I've never seen a movie about breaking into Alcatraz, just because like that's not really. At the end of the day, it's not really what the movie's about. It's just kind of like the setting that inspires the name,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like the Alcatraz of it all. I mean, I guess because they just give like it's really difficult. It was really difficult to break out of. It must be really difficult to break into.
Not necessarily a true statement.
No, like by definition, not. But whatever, that's what we're working with.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so the third time I saw this movie was for this episode.
All right.
And it's still great. It's still very fun.
Yeah, it is a damn roller coaster.
Like there's so many amazing people in this movie. One of them's even a woman.
Two.
There's a second. Oh yeah, the
You're
daughter
making-
is the daughter
really-
and her friend are in there barely.
No, his girlfriend.
Yeah, the girlfriend, his daughter, the daughter's friend. Who else am I missing?
No, but that's two. You said one, and I said
Yeah.
there's a second one.
Yes. Well, yes. John Patrick Mason, like, I forgot about the daughter. I remembered the girlfriend.
I tell you what, I haven't watched this movie in a long time. When I was a kid, I watched this a lot. And this was one of the first DVDs that I bought. So I watched it a lot in like high school and in college. But I haven't watched it in like 20 years or 15, 20 years, something like that. And so I was misremembering it. And I, in my head, thought there was just one woman and that and that his girlfriend was also Mason's daughter, and it was a big coincidence. It was like, and watching it, I was like, oh wait, no, that's not, it can't be right. And of course it's not the case because that would have been too much. That would have been, no, that would not be, it would have strained credulity just a bit too much.
Yeah, that would have been a bit, yeah, absolutely not. That would have been
Too
crazy.
Cute. Too cute by half.
Yeah, but it's like, same brunette white ladies. But like I could totally see like as a child, like you're like, oh yeah, these are the same people. I'm not really paying attention. They don't matter to the plot. Anyway, let's go. Explode no things.
Yeah, she just ridiculously came to San Francisco despite him being like, no, don't come here.
Right. I mean, he didn't say why don't come here. It was like, no, did you promise this? You ran out on us getting engaged. I'm gonna freaking show up. It's really something. I mean,
Anyway.
I think we need to give her more to do. Like Carla Pestalozzi needs, and I did not bother recasting Mason's daughter at all. Didn't even bother.
Well, I did, but I mean,
Good.
Doesn't matter.
It'll be all yours.
Okay.
But like this movie, as it is, like the basic summary of this movie is that General Hummel and his military friends steal the like most dangerous chemical biological agent that there is, and then they hold up and take hostages at Alcatraz and threaten to fire it in missiles at San Francisco unless the government pays them money because the government's been taking them for granted for years. And so instead of paying them the money, the government hires chemical guy Stanley Goodspeed and the only person to ever break out of Alcatraz, John Patrick Mason, to lead a team to break into Alcatraz so that they can disarm the missiles and save the day.
Okay.
Is that right? Did I miss anything?
Well, yeah, you kind of like sanded over some motivations and some desires there, but yeah.
Well, please
That's
tell me about these
what
motivations and desires.
the general's his noble sort of what he was going for is not just the money for the men who were committing this heinous crime with him, was that the government had to acknowledge the sort of black ops like casualties that they've lost in conflicts that they wouldn't acknowledge.
That's right.
And pay like what's owed to the families of these veterans who died overseas, like in shadow wars that they wouldn't admit to. So
That's
it's like,
right.
you've got to pay the survivor benefits to literally hundreds of people who are otherwise in miserable poverty.
Yes, true. I'd forgotten that very quickly brought up point, but it's incredibly important, especially considering what I want to do with this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is so theoretically, like we go into the movie with like there's not a true villain because it's just these people who've been taken advantage of for so long, and now they're finally fighting back. And we don't get to a true villain until the end of the movie when some of the military guys are like, "No, we're mercenaries now. Let's kill San Francisco." And it's like,
yeah, man, I went all the way, man.
Yeah,
Punisher skull and everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot more meat to chew on nowadays than there was in 96. I mean, granted, 96 was just a couple of years after the Oklahoma City bombing, so there was sort of that to sort of build off of, but it's only gotten worse.
That's exactly it. Like, it has only gotten worse. Like, if anything, that makes The Rock something worth revisiting because, like, the exact thing that was being brought up of, like, these veterans are being completely screwed over by the government, some of whom are just legends. Literally, they say in the movie that this man is a legend, and just being thrown away by the government. And, like, it's not gotten better. Military benefits get slashed. There's so many people who are homeless who are former military, and that's exactly the sort of fun note that I want to start season 6 of Ideal Remake on.
Oh boy.
But yeah, like it's still real and true.
Yep. Yeah. We've had decades of warfare to sort of lay the groundwork for this, depending upon how we do the movie and handle the problem of the Rock itself.
Right. Plus, it's like the United States is known for its bloated military budget, but almost none of that goes to the actual veterans.
Yeah, not
it
enough.
Just goes to military contractors who make more weapons than we're capable of using.
Yeah. It goes to a lot of that. It goes to a lot of infrastructure. And a lot of the contractors aren't actually building weapons. A lot of the contractors are just driving trucks and getting paid way too much to do that part. It is a complex economic ecosystem of just nonsense. But yeah, and we've had, since it's interesting in 96, like they had to reference Vietnam and all the, the nonsense that happened in the 60s and 70s in Southeast Asia. But now, and that is a very real thing. But in the post 9/11 world and the global war on terror, there's just so much more to work with. It's an evergreen concept.
Very much so. Yeah, which is tragic, but here we are. Do we want to do like a quick breeze through of the plot, or most people have seen The Rock or know The Rock, but let's do a quick run through.
But I mean, like, I hadn't seen it in like 15, 20 years. And when I started it up, I was like, man, they spend a lot more time in San Francisco proper than I thought.
They do. There's a lot that happens, and there's like a lot of like things that happen until I think it's an entire act of the movie before they actually get to Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Well, before crazy. Stanley Goodspeed and Sean Connery get to Alcatraz.
Yeah. Not James Bond.
No. Much gruffer, much closer in time to.
Well,
oh no! Why can't I think of the name of this movie? Oh no! Not the Avengers. The other one that ended his career.
The Alan Moore
where
adaptation.
He plays Alan Quartermain.
Yeah. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Thank you. My God.
Yeah, no. Well, you do know that he's supposed to be James Bond in this, right?
I did not know he's supposed to be James Bond in this. What?
It might be like kind of apocryphal, but my understanding is that at least in some part of development, they were trying to make this a thing where he's James Bond, and that they, that like that microfilm
Oh.
that they find at the end is like, all about James Bond's missions and stuff, and like, this is where James Bond ended up. This is what happened with Sean Connery, James Bond. But of course, the estate that owns James Bond is like,
The
no.
Broccoli's?
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
they're like, no, we're still making movies with this. Shut up, go
And it's
away.
and it's the same James Bond. That isn't multiple Bonds. It's not a stage name. It's always the same guy, which
Whatever.
is
It can be
bananas.
anything. I mean, I played with a little, yeah,
But
but
I didn't realize that. That makes sense and that's very funny. But
just
oh
people trying to
yeah,
be too cute.
yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a little bit of that, but it's also like, oh yeah, you know how Sean Connery stopped being James Bond? Well, here's
It would
why. He's
work.
been in jail for 30 years.
Yeah, which would make sense. He committed many crimes.
He wasn't a good guy. But yeah, so basically, General Hummel steals missiles, takes Alcatraz hostage.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, Stanley Goodspeed disarms a chemical bomb.
at FBI headquarters.
Yep, and then
With his partner, who is no good at his job and is only there for the audience to understand how scary the situation is.
and you know what? If that was his job, he did a great one.
I mean, the bit where they're like, you got to get the atropine and be able to inject it into your heart. And he's like, oh, you want me to do what? I can't you want me to put this giant thing in my heart? And it's like, how did you get the job and go into the
Seriously.
stupid room if you don't know this?
This seems like day one training.
Yeah.
And then later in the movie, he talks about how he's leaving the FBI and he's gonna what was he gonna do? Sell antiques or something? I don't know, something ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and Stanley Goodspeed disarms the bomb, does the thing, saves the day, and then goes home, finds out his girlfriend is pregnant, and she proposes to him.
Yeah.
They have sex, but he gets called away to San Francisco on a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And
Probably just a training exercise. Why don't you come out and join me, honey?
Yep.
How do they know you're here? It's the FBI.
It's the FBI. And so goes to San Francisco, finds out that it's not a training exercise, it's real, things are bad, but they need to figure out a way to get into Alcatraz. So the only way they can figure out how to get into Alcatraz is by talking to the only person who ever managed to get out.
Nobody else has survived. The warden died in 70-something. All the guards are useless. I did like that line, like the guards are useless.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. They're all old and retired.
I mean, in 96, Alcatraz had been closed for 33 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I would imagine quite a few of them were like, no, but thank you.
Yeah. And also, I never tried to escape.
Yeah. I knew the path I took, I knew where the bathrooms were, and I knew where we beat the people. I mean, got food.
I had a job. I was there from 9 to 5. That's it.
Yeah, I wasn't spelunking at the office.
Yeah, in the crazy underground chomper smasher machine.
Yeah.
Which
Why
was
does this exist?
Galaxy Quest. It was a Galaxy Quest moment. I'm like, what is this?
What is this for?
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, seriously. And by the way, if you want to hear a breakdown of Galaxy Quest, I guess become a Patreon subscriber to Dueling Genre and listen to the franchisography Galaxy Quest cover, which was very good.
Very good. Very good.
And
so they get Mason, this British national who's been in Leavenworth lockup. They make Goodspeed and him talk, and they end up having to go to the penthouse, and surprise, surprise, the capable British agent escapes. There's a dramatic chase through San Francisco, and
it turns out by coincidence his daughter lives in San Francisco.
Dun dun dun.
His definitely mid-20s daughter, who he had during one of his other jailbreaks, when he decided to, after his jailbreak, hang out at a bar and knock up a lady and realize that they didn't have a future together because he got sent back to jail because he didn't leave the country.
Well, it didn't. I mean, you say sent back to jail. In her version of events, like mom talked about, her mother told her that federal marshals kicked down the door of the room that they were in. So,
Yeah. Nonetheless,
yeah.
they go to break into Alcatraz. There's a whole team, but then there's a standoff between General Hummel's team and then
Yeah.
the
Walk
Goodspeed.
right into a trap.
Yep. They walk right into a trap. Everyone dies because a brick falls on the ground, and everyone's got itchy trigger fingers because military. And the only people
Well, it's a
left.
tense situation. The
Absolutely.
Mexican
I don't blame
standoff.
them. Yeah. General Hummel says, "You guys got to lay down your weapons. We have the high ground, Anakin."
Can't do that, General.
Despite
Ah!
the fact that you should absolutely do that, protect your men. But no. And so then it's left. So basically, none of Hummel's men die, but Goodspeed and Mason survive. And so then they're like secreting their way around Alcatraz, and they start disarming missiles
Yeah.
until they
Getting the
get caught,
chips.
and then they escape, and then they get caught, and then they escape, and then they do all the things, and then people die. But then they're the winners.
Okay. More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
I
We've
take
done all
pleasure in gutting you, boy.
Yeah, we don't take like we did all the heavy plot like stuff in Act 1. So like all right, we get all of their motivation, we have it.
And
now we're going to get to the fun.
And then there is the turn at the end where, like as you had said, the general is like, "I bluffed. I'm not going to kill San Francisco. Are you insane?" And the others are like, "Yeah, we're insane now. We're like I said, the Punisher skulls are everywhere, and we're ready to kill everybody to get our millions of dollars."
Our lives are over now because we did this with you. We can't just walk away. We're mercenaries, and mercenaries get paid.
We didn't sign up for an honorable bluff.
Yeah. We signed up to kill San Francisco.
Well,
you promised us killing San Francisco.
No, they signed up to get the money. They wanted the money. They signed up for the money. They didn't necessarily sign up to kill San Francisco, but they signed up knowing that to get the money, they might have to kill San Francisco, and they were fine with that.
They were. I mean, the whole purpose and the whole team that he assembled are people who've done horrific military things that the United States denies ever having a part in or existed.
Yeah.
So presumably these are the people who were willing to do those terrible things. So of course they'd be willing to do this terrible thing as well. But yeah, either way, everyone wins, no one loses, or alternatively, everyone loses, no one wins.
Yep.
Except for Goodspeed and Mason, because at the end, when Nick Cage is asked, "Hey, what happened to Mason?"
Incinerated.
He got incinerated. He's gone. He died.
The missile.
FBI Director Womack wanted to see the body.
It's turned to ash. Nothing.
Can that happen? Can that happen? Can someone get incinerated? Oh, yeah,
completely.
Which is what
a stupid question.
Also, Womack goes, "Is that true?" Like he asks Goodspeed, who said this happened. He said, "Hey, is it true? Can someone get incinerated?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's possible." Instead of, "Yeah, I just saw it happen to someone."
What do you think happens during cremation? Director of the FBI?
Someone makes a wish, and then they get carried off to heaven? I'm the director of the FBI, and or chief of staff for the president.
Yeah, that too. lots of good 90s character actors in here. Oh,
very much so. It's a fun cast.
Yeah.
But this movie is silly and ridiculous, but a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But we talked ahead of time a little bit about how the window to remake this movie is rapidly closing.
Yeah. So this is made and set in 1996. And it takes place in Alcatraz prison off San Francisco, which is at the time and today a tourist attraction. It's a tourist attraction because it was a prison.
They turned The Rock into a tourist attraction?
Yeah. It was a prison operating from like the 20s or 30s up until they closed it in 1963. So the last prisoners.
March 21st, 1963.
So there's 33 years there of it just being a tourist. Well, presumably the first couple of years we're cleaning it up. But now it's a tourist attraction. It's not a prison. So the last inmates were there in 1963, which means if you assume that somebody's incarcerated as an adult at 18, they are at least in their 50s. And for this movie, Sean Connery himself was 66, so he would have been there as a prisoner in his 30s. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, in his
I mean,
early
and
30s.
before Alcatraz was a prison, it was a holy place for Native Americans. And then the United States took that and said, no, no, we're going to put criminals here. You can't have it anymore, Native
Wasn't it
Americans.
also a fortress for a little while, like around the Civil War era, like late 19th century? I think it was
Yeah, yeah,
also a
yeah.
fort too.
Yeah, I think yes, I think a fortress was between prison and holy site.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway,
And then there was a thing that happened. I don't remember when this happened. It might have been like in the 80s. They were basically Native Americans tried to like take Alcatraz back. They're like, you're not using this anymore. This belongs to us. Let us have it. And that was gaining momentum. And then they got joined by a bunch of hippies who completely ruined the movement and took it over and like diluted everything down. It was like
oh
instead,
hippies.
yeah, hippies literally ruined it for Native Americans, and it's
Yeah,
deeply tragic. But
that's what hippies do.
so we have to figure out if we're remaking this in the present, which I do think we should, because the whole issues that they deal with are like the present of military and the military industrial complex screwing over veterans.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an important thing to talk about.
Yeah, that is important, and you could, on the other hand, you could still set it in the mid '90s, and you could sort of inform it with
Of
what we know
course.
today, what our experiences of the last 20 years, and also better inform it with what happened. There's like a throwaway line about Desert Storm, and there's no mention of like the militia movements in the '90s that gained steam them,
Mhm.
and like the Oklahoma City bombing. You could write a piece in 95, 96, whatever, that sort of filled in with that information and has that sort of juice in there.
That is
But
also true.
but if you
But
do
no
it,
matter what, like, because you'd also mentioned maybe you can set it at a different prison, but you kind of can't because it's like it's
then it's a
the
different
Rock.
name. Yeah, then it's
Yeah.
not The Rock. And also so island prison is a thing. It's a pretty consistent part of it's a human invention that we've been doing for thousands of years, where it's like if you have
Yep.
people that you need to lock away for a while, a good place to put them is on an island. They don't have access to the
On
boats.
some
They
sort of
they can't get
Shutter
away.
Island.
Or some sort of Australia, or like
Yeah.
there's
Right.
but there's like, if you go to Wikipedia, there's a whole list of like different countries and their prison islands, like Turkey, Russia,
Hmm.
the UK, tons of them. Everybody's got a prison
Yeah.
island.
It's not like the
China,
United
Russia,
States currently has a prison island
yes, but nobody's going to
on
shut down
Cuba.
Rikers. Well, are we still using that one? Yeah,
On
I think we are.
Guantanamo Bay? Yes,
Yeah,
we
we're
are.
still all right. Well, but we also have another bigger prison island, Rikers.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, that one hosts like 10,000 people a day and 100,000 people a year, and has like a
Yeah, we're
huge.
not a good
That's a
country.
big one.
But this movie,
The thing is, there's no other suitable prison island to work
yeah,
from, and it's called The Rock. And it's like, if you change the name, it's not a remake of The Rock anymore.
yeah. So like the guy that I have playing the John Patrick Mason
Okay,
character is he's getting up there in years. He
has to.
is 77,
Okay.
I think.
All right. Well.
And the
All
reason why I'm sorry, he's 76.
right.
Um but like but my pitch is he was imprisoned in Alcatraz,
Mm-hmm.
but we have this whole thing set up where the Mason character has already stolen military and government secrets. There's no reason why one of those secrets can't be the layout and like all of the hidden tunnels of Alcatraz. So that's something that just occurred to me. But basically, my pitch was going to
Mm,
be he was the last person to escape from Alcatraz, and he
okay.
did it when he was 17 years old.
Uh, okay.
I don't know what else we can do. Like other than set it in 1996 or 2005, because the other thing we could do is we don't have to go back to 1996. If we go back 20 years and set it in 2003, then we have all of the post 9/11 hysteria going on.
True. It can be a slightly later period piece, and yeah, that would be it'd be a lot of juice to work with there.
When did
Um,
we fail to find those weapons of mass destruction?
well, the whole time, but
Right. Also, yes. Good point.
by 2003. So you could set it there, and that would work better. But okay,
We'll set
I
this
am
whenever you think.
I am struggling to think of any 76-year-old who I can, because not just like currently the actor is 76, but maybe they could play younger. In
No.
terms of like, in terms of just a character, I don't. I'm just struggling with a human 76-year-old doing these things. Like retirement age 65, 66, where Sean Connery was. Like that's a hard cutoff. There's a reason that's the retirement age.
It is, but then like you keep in mind that like some of the actors who are working now, I mean, how old is Patrick Stewart?
Patrick Stewart's not. Uh, he's old, but
I mean,
are you
he's I
saying
think
Patrick Stewart?
no. Patrick Stewart is 10 years older
Yeah,
minimum than the guy.
he's in his 80s, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's getting close to 90. I think he's pretty old.
Yeah, he's pretty old. The Picard show is definitely a. I mean, they're doing a lot there, and I don't know.
I'm sorry, he's only 82.
82.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
not to be ageist, but
But that is something to consider. So like obviously I cast someone with the idea of like honestly I had the idea for the person and then kind of like retrofitted it to be like, "Oh my god, I need to
yeah.
look up when Alcatraz closed."
Yeah, but also, well, like the thing is, like I was like doing my cast and like thinking in terms of it being set now, and I was like,
Yeah,
writing stuff down. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. And then I was like, oh wait a sec, it closed in '63.
I did the
Shit,
same thing. I literally did exactly the same thing.
this is
And that's
impossible.
so I was like, it's a good thing I cast someone in his 70s or I'd have had to do something else.
Yeah, and I'm sure Alcatraz housed a couple of minors. That must have happened, like
Oh man.
17-year-olds. But the thing
Yeah.
is, there is a difference between a 20-something, 30-something stealing government secrets because they were, a veteran of a World War or Korea or Vietnam, and they've had training and they're a flippin' spy, and they've had at least a decade out in the world to experience and grow and learn. But the idea of a 17-year-old being imprisoned for stealing government secrets just beggars disbelief. I can't
Well,
imagine a young
here's the thing.
teenager
I wasn't
having access to sort of it just
yeah, I wasn't anticipating the Mason character having been in prison since 1963. That would be ridiculous. I was like the sort of thing I wanted to do was sort of imply jailbreak getting out of Alcatraz, big crazy life, like escaped United States custody for decades, like doing all these different things for British
and
Secret
then got
Service,
recaptured.
and then got recaptured 15, 20 years ago.
Eh.
Once everything started locking back down again post 9/11.
As much as during the world wars it was definitely a thing that people would lie about their age and end up getting sent to the front and shot up in a trench. You don't They did not train minors for special
Espionage.
services espionage. It just,
Yeah,
I mean, you would
I think that's
use a
fair.
minor as a spy,
Yeah,
as an agent, as a spy, like a handler would use a minor when they could, but you wouldn't like at the operate OSS like,
I'm not implying Mason was a spy when he broke out of Alcatraz. I'm just saying he got
okay,
sent to Alcatraz and
as a
then
kid.
later became a spy.
Oh, okay. I all right.
It look, it's a lot of steps when you could get around all of them by saying, it's 2003. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and if it's 2003, then my first choice. All right. All right, all right, all right. Anyway,
Well,
um,
so like this is the first big hurdle that we need to overcome. When do you want to set this movie?
well, again, like I'd originally been thinking now, realized that is illogical and doesn't make sense and it won't work. And then as a period piece, I was like, well, 96, because that's when the first one movie is. But like, but you mentioned 2003, like a little after 9/11, that gives us a lot of juicy material to use in terms of like the global war on terror and like, is it the terrorists? And like, the terrorists are going to get us. Oh, wait, no, it's our own people. And there's a lot more there to work with. And I think that can add layers to the story that would be very useful.
I think we can also use that and say, like, if it's 2003, you can say, you've just been given blank checks by the US government. Some of that should go to the veterans instead
Hmm.
of going to make more.
Yeah. Oh God, you could directly reference like some of the things that happened, like where pallets of cash were sent overseas and just went missing.
Yeah, literally exactly that.
Yeah, that is
You can
some
even have one of the
juicy material.
people. You can even have one of the people who is on like on Hummel's team be one of the people who accompanied the pallet of cash.
Yeah, I saw this get
Yeah,
picked up by these people that I'm pretty sure are going to be our enemies in a couple of years.
yeah, like I know what the United States is capable of dishing out, and they'll give it to anyone who's willing to kill their own veterans, but they won't give it to their own veterans.
Yeah.
And like
Ah.
I think that's a place for us to land. It doesn't necessarily need to be strictly 2003, but sometime in the early 2000s, sometime in
Yeah.
that decade.
Yeah, and that way you can still we that we'll have somebody a little older. Yeah, somebody a little older, and it still works logically, and they're
Yeah,
not too old.
I I think you are probably right, and I think throwing flags on that particular play is the right thing to do. And obviously, a lot of the things that we're dealing with now, in terms of like the way military veterans are kind of jerked around, we can kind of see like where we're going and kind of like be like it'll be really bad if this is the way we keep going because it sets a bad precedent, and then obviously it
Yeah,
is in fact what happens.
yeah,
Okay, so that's time period. What so the other thing I think we need to talk about is the fact that Hummel gets to the very end and isn't willing to fire the missiles.
yeah.
And I don't think that's good enough.
Really?
So we have this whole thing of like Hummel's not really a bad guy. He's not willing to kill innocent people. But at the end of the day, it's like the missile had been aimed at a like a stadium full of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like he's a military guy and he's been doing military operations. And like military operations are rarely go in and kill the most people. It's normally strategic strikes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's strategic strikes, and you can send missiles, and you can like create this panic. But it turns out the missiles are targeting things the United States cares about, but won't necessarily result in a lot of casualties.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have the people at the end who turn against Hummel be like, "No, we need to target the people because that way, that's the only thing that the government will respond to is we killing the people. Right now, we're going
So
after PG&E or whatever."
okay, so right now you're saying instead of the first missile being targeted at a stadium, a soft target full of civilians, that it should be like the general being like, I'm going to target like the Coast Guard base or something,
Something like that. Like I
and like that he
something
actually intends to hit it.
well,
I
a missile goes off, and then like
and then he
the
redirects
general
it.
like redirects it in the middle of it being fired, which
Yeah.
you know better than I do. Is that possible?
Yes. You can
Like,
absolutely you can absolutely change like a cruise missile that's fired off. You can abort it up till the last moment.
okay,
They're smart.
fair enough.
A lot
Smart
of money.
missiles are smart.
They cost a lot of money, and part of the reason they cost a lot of money is that you can change them. you know.
Fair enough. Part of what I wanted to do was like go full Michael Bay and fucking explode a building or something else or some sort of asset, and it's like
I
there were
don't
no people
know.
there. I know there were no people there, but the government will pay attention to that.
Okay.
We just took
Well.
out we just
So,
took out the oil field or something.
mm, well, okay. So like the mechanism of the sort of the MacGuffin, the weapon that they use, the VX gas. I think that's great. Like it's spoiler alert, it's a real thing. It doesn't exactly
Oh,
work the
good.
yeah, it doesn't exactly work the way it does in the movie. It doesn't make you like sort of bubble up into a weird melty, the Toxic Avenger kind of thing.
But
But
you will shit out your spine?
you won't shit out your spine. That's hyperbole, but you will die. It
Yes.
will like the way it works is like it makes your muscles like just sort of spasm uncontrollably until they get tired and can't anymore. And then the mechanism of death is that you asphyxiate because your diaphragm can't breathe. It's ugly and very powerful. So I think it's a perfect kind of MacGuffin terrorist weapon for them to use. It wouldn't be effective against a non-populated target. It would do nothing because it just kills people.
Sure. Well, that's the other thing to consider is do we want them going after the same chemical component?
I mean, I think it's a good, scary weapon.
It is. But you know better than I do. What are some other good scary weapons?
Well, chemical and it's biological weapons or no, because that's completely out of control. Like you don't want to use that. Like if it gets out, it might not be just San Francisco. You don't want to do that. But a chemical weapon, a
Right.
gas weapon, that's the sort of thing you can really like that you could do explode. I think it's easier for them to get their hands on chemical weapons than like a nuclear weapon,
No,
or a
sure, but
biological
it
weapon.
doesn't necessarily have to be biological or chemical or nuclear. It could also just be really powerful.
Well, the thing is, to be really powerful, it has to be really big. Like if you ever heard of the Moab, the mother of all bombs, like the
No,
most
I've not.
powerful. Well, there's a really powerful bomb that is not a nuclear weapon, but it hits with a huge amount of force and can destroy stuff. Like we've only dropped them like twice or something, but it's. But the thing is, it's the size of a bus. In order for a bomb to be as powerful as a nuclear weapon, it has to be big because a nuclear weapon packs in like so many tons worth of TNT, and you think about like a stick of TNT, and how much that weighs, and to get tons, you've got to load up pallets and pallets and pallets of it. So anything other than a nuclear weapon to be a really powerful weapon that destroys like a city or a city block is huge. You're not going to be able to steal it with 12 guys. So the chemical weapon is kind of perfect because it's a small package that can kill a lot of people, and you can put it on something that's effectively the size of a model rocket. Like you have like this little thing, this little delivery system, and you can get the a high number of casualties, and they'll have to take you seriously.
And if it's a small thing, what's to prevent the government from accepting the 84 hostages that are on Alcatraz and just bombing the island, and like needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few kind of thing?
I don't know. I mean, you kind of have to. It depends on the administration in charge and what sort of decision they're willing to make. And I'm sort of struggling to think in history of a similar decision having to be made because it's an absurd Hollywood situation that
Sure, and it's
I
also the
don't
sort of
think.
the
I don't think we've
well,
ever had this.
that's actually not true, because I think this is the sort of thing that happens all the time where they do strategic military strikes that also take out civilians.
There are, yeah, that does happen, but there's a calculus to it, and well,
There would be a
yeah,
calculus to this too.
yeah, they might, if that might, and the thing is, in the movie, they're like, yeah, we know that we don't have access to the hot enough burning thing to take this out, and it's like, oh, sure, we'll get it, and they do, the contractors get paid their money to build the hotter burning bomb, so yeah, maybe that'll happen, and that's why Hummel, like why he chose this weapon is because he's like, you don't have access to something to just destroy Alcatraz. I'm preventing you from being able to just kill the hostages and kill us and take out the threat. You can't, or at least
I
I
think
believe you can't.
I think it needs to be something chemical or something biological, because by taking out Alcatraz, it will release the chemical into the air and it'll still get San Francisco.
No, I mean, no,
No, it won't
no,
function like that.
it gets destroyed. It gets
Okay.
burned up, destroyed. It doesn't, biological even more so than chemical. Like if it gets hit with, like if you've got like a bioweapon store or a chemical weapon store and it gets hit by a nuke, the store's gone. It's not like that. It's not like you're adding up thing. You're not compounding the destruction by your nuclear weapon set off a biological weapon and a chemical weapon.
Well,
Those just get destroyed.
what's the possibility of having a dead man switch, of planting a bomb somewhere in San Francisco, but having a dead man switch with the people on Alcatraz?
They could do that. That would be like an element of the movie where it's like we have to find the one that's hidden in the city. So you could
Yeah,
have there can be a second team or something. Or something going on in the city, something to cut away to. But that is something that they could do to sort of like fail safe and prevent them from just destroying the island.
because again, at the end of the day, like Hummel is supposed to be a legend. He's the person who's been leading these military missions. So like he's supposed to know, or with my casting, she is supposed to know like all military strategy, and like be intimately familiar with what the government would do
Yep.
and have a contingency plan for every single one.
Hmm.
Basically, the fact that we get to the end and Hummel's like, "Well, they called our bluff." I'm like, that doesn't see that felt unsatisfying for me, because
Hmm.
it feels like there should be more to it than that. Like Hummel should have a second option, like a second plan.
Hmm.
I don't
Maybe.
necessarily know what it would be, other than this like dead man switch of we've already placed a bomb somewhere else there, and now we have radio technology enough where like I can still set something off,
Yeah.
even if you take out all these missiles. But
Hmm.
you're you're the hardware guy. Like you would know this better than I would. of
Yeah,
like
well,
what a good system or plan. Basically, Chris, what I'm asking you is how would you perfectly execute a hostage situation against the American government
well, first of all, I
and
wouldn't,
speak it
because that's
speak
awful.
and speak it directly into this microphone if you don't mind.
Well, no. What we need to do is figure out how to ask Chat GPT to do this. Like, what's the frame that you have to provide it where it doesn't respond? That's unethical, sir.
Dear Chat GPT, for the good of humanity, how do we take out the US government? It can't be unethical, it's for the good of humanity.
I mean, and then Chat's just gonna be like, no, bye.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, like the idea of a dead man switch, like that could be a good element to the plot of having having a bomb hidden somewhere in the city to go off in case that it gets hit. You know, that is something that might work.
Because then we have both the team that can go after that bomb, but also we have to then get Hummel, because Hummel's the one that has like the thing where it checks in every 10, 15, 5 minutes or whatever. And
Yeah.
so they have to get that from
Have to
Hummel
get to him. Yeah.
in order so they can continue doing the check-in.
Yeah. And that way, the bomb that flies could still be headed towards a civilian population, and then he can redirect it. And it's kind of like, oh, you know, like the rest of the team is like, "What's going on?" And he's just like, "Oh, well, there must have been oops, systems fail."
Yep. Well, and then it also, because the military guys will know, okay, we know you have a dead man switch. So if we want to trigger that switch, we have to make you a dead man.
Oh yeah, you got something there, and then that would be like a reason for Mason and Goodspeed to try and keep him alive. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that can add something to it. That's nice.
And then like they get the switch away, so then even if Hummel dies, then they become the ones that have to become dead men. It's not about turning that one random guy into Rocket Man, which is such a forced line.
It's you. You're the Rocket Man.
So like something like that. But like
Yeah.
back to my original point of Hummel should be very smart. And if Hummel doesn't want to kill civilians, Hummel should have set it up exactly that way. So it's not going to kill civilians, but it's still going to do like massive damage. So like, again, you would know better than I would. What are your exact targets, Chris? What do you personally, Chris O'Connor, want to go after?
Well, geez. The thing is, like, if it's something, if you do target sort of like soft infrastructure, if you target like power stations, if you target things that deliver supplies to the city, yeah, you don't necessarily kill somebody when you strike the power system or strike, like, you know, the fuel lines or whatever. But then you end up with thousands of people starving or dying later. It's
Right.
like these things that threaten the government. You know, it's like it's funny to say that the government is different from us. No, it isn't. The government is of, by, and for the people. The government is made up of people, and the only way to threaten the government is to kill these people. Whatever you do that threatens the government is going to kill people. It.
But
I mean,
basically what I'm getting to is I feel like there's a smarter
like, there's
target
no.
than a stadium full of people.
It's not going to have an EMP. He's not going to like pull a Black Widow and threaten to release their hidden files. I.
No, especially because the hidden files are currently on the other guy. The hidden files are currently on the good guy.
Anyway.
So like, so if there isn't an option, we'll stick with what we got. But I was like, that felt like something worth talking about, just in terms of like,
It is worth talking about. And, you know, as soon as we get the money to put this room together and write it out, you know, we'll solve that problem.
I'll talk to my guy.
Our terrorist planner.
I mean, that's kind of what you need for something like this. Like, you need to
Yeah.
have
Assemble a worthwhile threat.
Yeah. So basically, what made me really start thinking about it is because I was listening to a podcast this week. I was listening to the Dollop talking about PG&E and how truly evil a company they are, and about how basically they've been in charge of utilities and maintaining infrastructure for over 100 years, and some of the infrastructure that they have has been standing for over 100 years, despite supposed to be replaced every 40.
Yeah.
It's just like awful things.
Which is
and just, like,
that's a pretty long timeline on its own. 40 years,
is.
like, wow.
Yeah, and like, and they keep being like, yeah, we'll fix it, and then they just don't. It's bad. It's like, if you want to get absolutely furious, it's a 2-part episode on the Dollop PG&E. Get ready to get real mad. What I was gonna say is that, like, instead of targeting the people, you target corporations, but corporations are digital now, so I don't know how you would do that.
Not
So
with a
like
chemical
outside of
weapon.
yeah, no, it's like you can't fire a chemical weapon at Enron.
Yeah, a chemical weapon is good for nothing but killing people.
Exactly. So it's like as much as I want to do something like that and kind of like do a little twist of like turn straight up terrorism into like eco terrorism a little bit, but I don't think there's a way we can make it work.
No, no,
All right, fine, we'll kill the football fans.
but not.
Sure, but not. Just as you say, for sure. No problem. So, we're set sometime in the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah. Is it the terrorists?
Well, that's exactly it. Is like they can't like you literally can have someone say the line out loud. If they can't be
Yeah.
terrorists, they're white.
Well,
like
I was thinking of like from the War of the Worlds with little Dakota Fanning, like, and Tom Cruise as her dad. I'd be like, is it the terrorists?
wow. But I'm like, just like really shine a light on a lot of the racism and everything going on at the time. I do think we need to shine lights on like everything else we've talked about. So what else do we need to talk about in terms of recreating and remaking The Rock? What are some let's take a step back. What are some
Okay.
moments from the original movie that you really want to hold on to? What's important to you and good
All
like
right.
what do you need to carry over from the original movie?
The SEAL team. So the SEAL team needs to make the infiltration with Goodspeed and Mason and get wiped out. 1996 was a great year for this. In addition to The Rock, we also got Executive Decision with Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal, where they like attach to an airplane underneath, and Steven Seagal is like the head of the SEAL team. Except the plane has to disconnect, and Steven Seagal dies in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and Kurt Russell, who's just an analyst like Nicolas Cage, has to try and save the plane from the terrorists.
Wow.
So that's a trope I like. I like the idea that we have a SEAL team full of like Eagle Scout Captain Americas who are just gonna get ganked, and then it's up to the old criminal and a dork.
Yes, I love that. Perfect. Fully on board. I think we've all already talked about like my opinion about like where the motivations of the military on either side are coming from. I had considered not having the girlfriend Carla Pestalozzi in the movie, but I feel like you need her. Like as much as it's shitty to have like I'm only do like I'm the girlfriend in there to motivate the actions of the hero and the
Yeah.
daughter there to motivate the actions of the hero. I feel like you have this opportunity if you give her something to fucking do. I don't know what it is though.
If there's a bomb in the city and the dead man switch is attached to this bomb in the city that they can't find, another team has to go and find the thing. And as much as it might be frowned upon to have an inter-office relationship, the bioweapons division is separate from the counterterrorism like hostage rescue team that would actually be performing the search. So conceivably, you could have a situation where you have your dorky Dr. Goodspeed, who is used to messing with bugs and germs and chemicals, and his girlfriend is like the hot hostage rescue team commander who's gonna be in SWAT gear and would be
Okay,
going into the city to do like the actual
I
mission.
love that. So
Yeah.
I love that. Here's
And
why.
and there's a reason for her to go to the city too.
That's exactly why.
And it's not like a thing where he's like, "Oh, you should come
You
with
should
me,
come to the
baby."
city with me.
But oh no, you shouldn't. And she's like, "I'm gonna come anyway." But
Yeah.
now it's like I have to be there too, and so they
Well,
have
yeah.
to save each other.
Well, yeah, it's exactly that of like Goodspeed goes to San Francisco to go like do the mission and the rescue, and all these things are happening. And then we find out something's going wrong, and then he finds out that the SWAT team and the counter terrorist team gets called in to find this other bomb, and then he has this moment and he goes, "Wait, who's
Carla's
leading
on
the
that
mission?
too. Yeah.
Who's on the mission? Who's leading the mission? You don't understand. Who's leading the mission?" And then we cut to Carla in
Yeah.
full military outfit, pointing where people have to go and being completely in charge of the situation. And so now all of a sudden he's even more motivated because he has to save her because she got called in to save him.
Yeah.
That's so much better. I love that, Chris. That's brilliant. It doesn't necessarily work with my casting, but we'll roll with it.
Hey, it works with mine actually better than I intended.
Oh, good.
I wasn't thinking of this like when I did it, but it like
No,
it
but that's
out.
way
She could do
better.
it.
Yeah, no, I like yours. That's great. Good. I love that. I think that's incredible. What else do we need from the original movie?
Let's see.
I like the mazes underneath Alcatraz. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
like
some great
having to
stuff.
navigate like
Like
the secret tunnels.
the tunnels, the absolutely nonsense bonkers. Like what did they? It wasn't the boiler. Like what was the
The
siphon? Something.
furnace or
The
something.
whatever. The nonsense. The stuff
Yeah.
that they had to like
The
navigate
thing
under there was all great.
that doesn't exist. But like literally that of like it's it's a prison built on top of a military fortress built upon it like a sacred Native American burial ground. Like there's shit hidden in places we don't even know about.
Yeah, they could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah,
And they did. There's a mine cart for some reason. It's like
and
suddenly it turns into Temple of Doom.
and there's no reason for there to be a mine cart. There was never a mine, but it's great, and I fucking love it.
Coal chute. I think it was to move coal like from housing to like a coal
Fine.
plant to burn for fuel for that
The
would
important thing
make
is that
sense.
it was the worst Donkey Kong level.
I never could nail those jumps. Those
Yeah,
fucking
it's so
jumps.
hard because the timing's always got to be off.
Yeah,
It's always
and
off.
it's hard to tell like where because like the little rails go down,
Well,
and
then
it's like when am I
sometimes it does
still
that
on it?
little curvy rail, and you miss it, and sometimes you hit it, and you got it, and you feel like you landed at the same place both times, and then you have to
Yeah,
go back and do the level again because you didn't
yeah.
get the K, the O, the N, and the G.
Yeah, so nonsense under the fortress. We have to have that.
Yes.
I love the pack of baddies. I like, for this 19, for 96, it was a bunch of like these character actors who have been in, there are a bunch of that guys where,
Yeah.
we've seen them in so many things and they've been in so much stuff. Like most people you would see it and like I think I'd be surprised if anybody could name more than two of them, but everybody's seen all of these guys.
Right.
So my casting for them didn't really make sense because I cast a bunch of people we all know. It wouldn't
I
be
mean,
these guys.
I mostly did the same thing. I did that for some of them, not all of them.
Mhm.
For one of them, I cast someone who's currently like a guy who like has been in like SEAL Team and Quantum Leap and everything, but I cast him specifically because he's an amputee.
Mm.
And that's the sort of thing that,
A reason to be upset.
yeah, like if I could have cast more people like that, I would have. But then I'm like, then you're just assembling
Oh.
an Avengers, and I'm like, with one we get it. But yeah, okay, cool.
Let's
I
see.
think we have a sense of what we want the movie to, like the different pieces that need to be plugged in.
Yeah.
We've kind of like spouted them out in random order, but I think we've kind of talked about them. Is there anything that we're missing?
For Mason, did you keep him British?
Yes.
Is he still in Her Majesty's Secret Service?
He is extremely British. If anything, he's more British.
More British.
Like, you'll see, he is exceptionally British.
I looked at, you gave me like the year of birth, and I was like, could it be who I think? Well, all right. Well,
it's possible. We'll get to that.
All right.
And that was the other thing of like, obviously, I felt like we needed more than 2.5 women in this movie.
Yeah.
So like, my General Hummel is going to be a woman. And we can certainly get to that when we do casting, but
yeah, my Major Baxter is a woman, so I didn't gender bend too much.
Honestly, my like I had the person I cast as my Major Baxter had been originally my Hummel, and then like I was like no, and I flipped him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that. Tell you what, let's just do casting.
All right, casting, the best part.
Yeah, I mean it's the part that everyone's like excited. Like I want to do plot because like we're writers and whatever, but like it's casting. This is the game people play.
Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, we have to start with Nick Cage, good old Stanley Goodspeed. And Chris, for our first recasting of Season 6 of Ideal Remake, who did you have for Stanley Goodspeed?
Oh, shit, this is a lot of pressure. All right, so at the time in 96, he was 32 or 33. I wanted somebody early 30s who is kind of a goofball. It's kind of weird, like looking back at 1995, 96, and the idea that people thought that Nicolas Cage should be Superman. I'm like, he's not physically intimidating. Like he's tall. He's like 6 foot or 6'1" or something, but he's not like physically impressive. Like you see him in the movie and it's just like, what a dork.
Well,
he gets to do the action and he still seems capable.
Well, that's exactly it. In this movie, he tries to have it both ways of like, he gets to have this big thing at the beginning where he's like, I'm the big action hero. And then they have him go talk to Mason and everything. He's like, I'm just the nerdy guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like,
So,
well, the winner goes home and sleeps with the prom queen. She is the prom queen.
yeah.
Oh boy.
Um,
Oh boy.
honestly, I hadn't seen it in 20 years. I thought it was going to be worse. That was kind of a cringy line, but
Hmm.
I was shocked there weren't more.
Honestly, that's exactly like a lot of the
For a
lines
Michael
work.
Bay film?
Yes, it's true. Like when I was going through and trying to pull quotes for my intro thing, like it took me a while because some of them either didn't work out of context or were cringy. But like
Hmm.
in context, they're less cringy. That is a cringy line, but
Let's
overall,
get the
for a
chit
Michael Bay
chat
film,
a-hole.
yeah, exactly it. Like that's exactly the thing. Like those things stand.
Yeah.
But so tell
Okay.
me, who was your 30-something
So
to
I,
play
I
Stanley Goodspeed?
I don't know. This you might kick me for this one. Daniel Radcliffe.
Interesting. That's not bad.
Yeah, he's a little guy. He's done some weird stuff. He's not physically intimidating, but he can be physical. Like he can work out, he can do the
Yeah.
motion, he can do the action, and he can play lots of different stuff.
Yeah.
I think he could do it.
I don't disagree. I actually think that's really good casting. It's a similar vein that to what I did, but like I think that's good. We kind of think of him as being the guy in the glasses for reasons.
Yep.
And like that's the kind of nerd that you're like, I don't think he can handle this sort
He's
of
gonna
thing.
be talking to the special agent in charge and the director of the FBI and moving his glasses up on his nose.
Exactly. Like I think that's a good choice. And as long as we're thinking about people who we really familiar wearing glasses, let me tell you about my guy.
All right.
I mean, most recently I saw him in Death to 2021. Did you know Netflix did a sequel to their Death to 2020 called Death to 2021? Well,
I
he's
think
in that.
I think I watched it. I
I
can't
didn't
think of who
realize they
this
did
is,
that
but
until a month ago. So, like, after 2022, I went back and watched Death to 2021.
did they do to 2022?
No, and I'm disappointed.
Ah, what a shame.
Uh, he's also in Midsommar, but that's not really what he's known for. He's known for The Good Place, because I went with William Jackson Harper.
I thought you might.
Yeah. I was like, I was laying
But
in bed and I was like, I have to do Cheaty. I have to
so
do Cheaty.
I got hung up on ages, and the thing is, Chidi's 43. He's like a
That is
little
correct.
older, so I got hung up on that, and that's why I thought of William Jackson Harper for a minute, and I was like, whoa, he's older than I am, and so I'm like, no, I'm gonna go with the kid,
The kid, Harry
the
Potter,
kid, Harry
the one who's
Potter.
my
Yeah.
age. The billionaire Harry Potter.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
he's an actual billionaire.
No, he's
but,
not a
like,
billionaire.
No. Oh man, I don't know if I can make a big argument for this because like I'm normally the one who's like, well, because of age, we can't do your guy, and you're doing it to me on my own podcast. I have to respect it.
And I think age is a really important part of this story. It's like it's very much dependent upon time and when people got out of prison and whose retirement age and is a fossil and isn't any use to the world anymore and we've broken him out of prison and he's like fossilized. And then you have somebody who's in their early 30s who may be professionally accomplished, but you look at this guy and the way we present Dr. Goodspeed could be like he's kind of like you look at him and you're just like, oh, look at this callow youth, as it were.
Look,
He's
I
not.
can't argue with anyone saying that someone my age is a callow youth, so we have to go with Daniel Radcliffe. Like you out Sammed me on my own podcast. We got to go with your guy then. Daniel
All right.
Radcliffe it is.
One for me.
Yeah, so that brings us to John Patrick Mason. Now, you said you had a guess as to who I went with, so I will go first. But first, who do you think I'm going with?
So you gave me the year, and I looked
Uh-huh.
at this. I looked at this guy specifically because of the James Bond connection. I looked at all the James Bonds, and so is it Timothy Dalton?
It is not.
Damn it, because he's also born in 1946.
Oh, is he? Because that was the information I gave you. Like I told you that my guy was born in 1946, so he'd have been 17. I didn't know Timothy Dalton was also born in 1946 because the person I have who was born in 1946 is Charles Dance.
Ooh.
Because I mean, like Timothy Dalton does this as well, but like you want someone who can be intimidating and scary no matter what he's wearing.
Yeah, he's a
And,
threatening old man.
And like you think about him in Last Action Hero, which came out about the time The Rock came out.
Yes.
But like he's also Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. He was in a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Like he's an intimidating, scary guy, and he's also extremely funny.
Yeah.
like I don't know how much of the British panel shows and everything, but like there's the Big Fat Quiz of the Year, and like they'll have Charles Dance sit in like a suit in a appointed British library
Yeah.
reading a quote from Mandy Moore's biography or autobiography, and it's great.
Yeah, he's pretty good at delivering that sort of stuff. You seen the what is it, the Ollie G thing where he's like wearing a mini skirt or something, dancing
Yeah,
around?
like he is very funny, and like he just flips a switch, and
Mhm.
he's great. But yeah, that's who I had for my John Patrick Mason. Who
Okay.
did you have?
Well, so I looked at both of the Bonds, a couple of the surviving Bond, Timothy Dalton being like in his mid 70s, and Pierce Brosnan would have been a good. He was Bond right around the time this came out. He's 69 now, which for me was I was like, that's a little too old. His nemesis from GoldenEye, Mr. Sean Bean, he's
Oh
like
man,
64. Sean Bean is even more British because he's actually from England rather than Scotland, and
yeah,
he's a killer.
yeah,
Like,
that's true.
he might not be as funny, but he's a killer.
He's a killer, and he's a killed.
And he'll get to survive the movie.
I mean, at this point, I feel like the Sean Bean trope has ended because too
It
many
has,
people know
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, that is a question that everyone would have to ask. Of like, you get to the end of mission, you're like, of course he died.
It's Sean Bean.
There was no way he was getting out of this alive.
My captain, my king.
Yeah. Oh man, that's tough. Sean Bean is good.
I I suppose, it just kind of comes down like they're both like charismatic and can be an intimidating presence on screen. And there is a certain element of like you're not going to actually ask a 65-year-old to do like a lot of the stunts. They're going to have a stunt double. But at the same time,
One does not simply ask a 74-year-old to do.
I kind of want to force them to have some sort of physical competition for the role.
Man. Tell you what, I think both of these guys would work. Let's come back to this, and we'll
Okay.
see whoever
See how
has
they
more.
Yeah, see
Well,
how
see how they fit, but mostly just whichever one of us gets more, the other
Okay.
one will get this.
All right. All right.
Sound
Sounds
fair?
good. That sounds fair. That's great.
Okay, that brings me to General Hummel. I went first for the last one, so I'll have you go first for this one.
All right. So for this one, I was shocked to realize that Ed Harris was only like 46, 45.
I saw that too. I was like, no, he was not.
So for one thing, generals are not 45.
No.
So I believe he was supposed to be playing older, which we can all believe because Ed Harris just has that old face. He's like a
Yes,
craggly, like stone of a man. He looks the same now as he did then. It's weird.
exactly.
Now that he's like 70, whatever. So I cast somebody right around the same age. Like I got a couple options. I'm gonna have to make a decision here real quick about which one is what I was going for. Is somebody who can sort of be grim and have the gravitas and sort of portray that threat, but at the end of the day, like the audience is going to believe they're like, oh, this guy's just too honorable. He won't do it. He just he his heart's in the right place. He's just making a stupid flipping decision, and that is Adrian Brody.
Interesting choice.
Yeah.
How old is it? Adrian Brody?
He'll be 51 next year.
Ah, oh man, I don't see it. The
So,
last two things I've seen Adrian Brody in are the pilot of Poker Face and See How They Run.
okay.
And in both, he plays the slimy sleazebag who is
Uh-huh.
dead by the end of it.
All right, that's true. And but the thing is, he's got a lot of range. So I'm going to bring up something that nobody else seems to like. Did you see him in Predators?
No.
he, it's a good movie, and he was good in it in the Arnold Schwarzenegger role. Like, he can
Wow.
be a killing machine. Like, I can believe Adrian Brody. And the thing is, like, if an actor who can convincingly be a sleazeball and a comedian and like, wrench at your heartstrings can also probably do the part of, being a stern-faced, honorable general. And I think Adrian Brody could do it. It was
I
either that
think,
or David Harbour.
I mean, sure. I think at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think it needs to be someone who, like, we as the American people associate with military service.
Hmm.
I think it needs to be someone who we've kind of seen in these roles for years.
Yeah, we haven't seen him do that then. That's true.
Yeah, I and if anything, I've also there's a little bit of she's worked with Nick Cage, so I feel like
Okay.
that's also important as she's going to be in a movie like this
All right.
because she's in Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. She's in A Few Good Men, and she's our GI Jane,
Oh.
Demi Moore.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
she was in Unbearable for like a moment at the end.
yeah, no, I know. I don't think she's in for very long. But
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny because like Nick Cage connection.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Good
like
one. Good
it's
one.
Demi Moore. Like she is A Few Good Men. She is GI Jane, and
True.
like
True.
and and that's part of why I had initially pitched originally of like showing that she is in fact capable of carrying out like this military thing because we're like, oh no, she's been the good guy. We've always seen her as the good guy. But then she has this
Hmm.
edge, and we're just like, oh okay, and she is willing to blow something up. Like the missile is heading towards the stadium, and she diverts it to something else instead. So it's still something explodes,
Hmm.
but not in the way you want.
Okay, that's pretty good. And also she has like that like you said, like the sort of Americans are used to seeing her. She's a known face to us, and it's like
Yeah,
the heroic face. It's like here's this person, and now she's turned on us. What?
yeah. And she is 60 years old, so she is someone who is the
General
age of
age.
someone who would be a
General.
general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually
Um,
general aged.
yeah, so that's why I was like, I feel like Demi Moore, that's a meaty role, and I feel like she'd really go for it.
All right, yeah, that's good. I like that.
Cool. Then that means it's my turn to go for Major Tom Baxter, who, to remind me who this was, I wrote Ed's friend. Because I
uh,
have General Hummel, Ed Harris, Major Tom Baxter, Ed's friend. So,
David Morse, who is another one of those that guy character
yeah.
actors, which you've
Well,
seen in a million things, but I can't think of a single one of them.
so that was the crazy thing. I was having a conversation about this movie, and we was like, oh, yeah, it's this guy. He's been in so many things. I was like, and I know him, but I couldn't figure out what I know him
Yeah.
from. And we dug until eventually we're like, the thing I know him from is Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and he's good at it. And he plays crazy. And he plays secret crazy.
Mm.
And it's good. I like it. But yeah, so I'm not as familiar with this particular actor as I am with some of the other actors, but I wanted to go with someone who it has a little bit more gravitas, and like he's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He was in Underground Railroad, but he was also in like Designated Survivor, and he was in something else that was like, oh my god, he was in this thing. Oh, he was in Peacemaker.
So he's a that guy.
He is a that guy. I'm gonna mispronounce his name. Chukwudi Iwuji.
Okay. And in Guardians, is he the High Evolutionary
Yes,
or?
he is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
All right. I got that right.
that's
All right.
precisely who he is.
All
So
right.
yeah, that's who I wanted to go with. He's in John Wick Chapter 2 as a Coney, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a that guy.
Yeah. Which is kind of what we need. I didn't. I really should have done a better job of digging up that guys.
Well, that's exactly it. That guys are so hard to dig up.
Because they're that guy.
There's that guy, and it's like the whole purpose of, like, the whole thing about that guys is when you see them you're like, oh, that guy, but the whole
Yeah.
point is that you have a really hard time thinking of them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So
It's Judy Greer disease.
I saw that commercial and I'm just like, no, I recognize you, Judy Greer. I would know
And,
you on the street. I would know
I mean,
you.
I would now, but it's because she wrote a book about being Judy Greer. It's like literally like, oh, the entire point of her book is that you all recognize me but don't know my name. And that book
Mm,
came out 10 years ago.
okay.
Also, she's Judy fucking Greer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Respect on that name.
Yes. Yes. I do. I do respect it.
So who do you have to play Ed's
Uh,
friend?
For this one, I had Katie Sackhoff, old Starbuck, and Bo Katan herself.
Ooh,
I thought she would be a good major.
that's very good.
Yeah. But if we don't, I mean, she could be any of them, really. But
Well, that's exactly it. Like anyone we come up with can be
they
one
can
of the
interchange
other
them
three.
around. Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
sort of like the pack of hyenas. Well, and his
Basically,
friend.
like I only came up with two people I named Bad Marine, but like any one of them, one that we say can be one of them. So like
Yeah.
Katie Sackhoff and Chukwudi Iwuji, like they will be in there somewhere.
The
But who do we want
squad.
to be? Major Tom Baxter. I would push us towards Chukwudi Iwuji,
Sure.
if
And
that's
then
okay.
and then Katie Sackhoff can be one of the ones that's like, no, we're gonna kill these people. I'm a mercenary. Give me the money.
Yeah, I would have her be like the crazy guy who gets like the orb shoved in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Oh
the person
God.
that's the
Oof.
one for one I would have.
Oof.
That's a shit way to go.
It is. It is.
Okay. So the next role I have is FBI Director Womack.
Okay. I was surprised that the guy who was playing Director Womack was only 50 for this, which I think is a little young for FBI director.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I went with Lance Reddick,
Oh, I don't know who that is.
a guy from crap. He's been in a lot of things, but you might know him from
He's in John Wick. Oh, he's
Fringe and
the
John Wick. He's the concierge in John Wick.
Oh, he's
And from that, you'll
good.
recognize him in a lot of other things. And I think he's played like FBI director type. In fact, I think in Fringe he was the director of the FBI. He might have. What was he in Fringe? Shit.
In Fringe he plays Philip Broyles. I don't know who that is, but
Yeah, it doesn't
Philip
include
Broyles.
his rank, but he's
Yeah,
like in the FBI. So
he's like he's in 90 episodes. It's fine.
yeah. I
Just
can't remember
90.
whether he's the director or just like the special agent in charge or whatever. But I feels like he's been promoted to director of the FBI.
In the upcoming TV series Percy Jackson and the Olympians, he will be playing Zeus.
There you go. And
But yeah.
he's in the Legend of Vox Machina as Thordak.
Oh, he's Thordak? Ah, he's
Yeah,
good.
he's the big dragon.
Yeah. That was fun. Ooh, that's really good. We're probably gonna end up doing that. So I mean, West Wing's not a funny show, but like the guy who played it was in West Wing, and it's
Yeah,
like a little bit of like comedy, but comedy with an edge.
yeah.
And so like that's why I was like, I feel like the person for this is Jane Lynch.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I feel like we're gonna go with your guy, but like Jane Lynch, like she kind of just plays the same character.
She
Like
does.
Glee, Wreck-It Ralph, Party Down, it's just the Jane Lynch character,
That's
and I
true.
kind of thought that would be a fun character for FBI director.
Could
But
be
think I think Lance Reddick is a better choice.
a little more menace.
It's a different kind of character. Like
Yeah.
I feel like if we're having like even if we'd had William Jackson Harper, but we're having Daniel Radcliffe. If we have Daniel Radcliffe in the Goodspeed thing, I feel like that's going to be enough of a comedic character that we don't need to hide comedy in the other people.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, FBI director Womack is supposed to be a villain.
He's the skis ball.
Yeah,
The one who goes back on his word.
immediately,
Yeah.
like tears up
That's
the
a federal
thing.
document. You can't do that.
Well, I did. Anyway, go in
Yep.
there and get the thing we need.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I think Lance Reddick's the way to go. All right, so the next person I had is Carla Pestalozzi. I feel like we got to change her name, the girlfriend.
The girlfriend.
When I
Carla.
cast this, Carla,
Agent Pestalozzi.
Agent Pestalozzi. When I cast this, I wanted to give her something more to do, and again, I always lean on the side of comedy, and I wanted her to be like entertaining, like something else going on. So the person I cast isn't necessarily military, but like is certainly capable or wants to be capable. Like her whole thing is that she's a character who wants to be capable, or at least that's the character she plays in Abbott Elementary.
Ah,
I went with Quinta Brunson.
okay. The star, the short teacher.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
Okay.
lead.
Yeah, the lead. Yes.
And since she's short and Daniel Radcliffe is short, that's now very funny to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I wanted someone who is capable, but has to like take a second, take a breath. Now I'm capable. And
Mm-hmm.
until then, it's just kind of like a little bit of a wacky comedy. But for a military person, that's not necessarily going to work. So who's our Agent Carla?
I went with Chloe Bennett
Yeah,
from
okay, yeah,
Agents of Shield.
obviously, yes,
So she can do that. They can give her a gun.
they can and have. Good. So before I get into our list of that guy bad Marines, what other characters did I miss?
Special agent in charge Paxton, like the guy from the San Francisco office.
Got it,
Um,
mustache.
yeah, William Forsythe. He was like 45. He was like he looks older, but he was in his mid 40s, which is kind of like another thing that I felt was important. Like Goodspeed's like early 30s. This guy's mid 40s, like
It doesn't
up in
look
his
like he's the
career.
same age as Ed Harris, and yet they were the same age roughly.
Yeah, weird. So for him, I came up with somebody. Also, like they didn't. played up as much, but I think here there'd be the opportunity to sort of like have this disparity between the special agent in charge, Forsyth, will be a big sort of intimidating, like this is the guy who should be going out into the field and yet is not. And I went with Joe Manganiello.
Funny. Okay,
So that you could
great.
just have a moment of like big, tall Joe Manganiello being like, hello, Daniel Radcliffe, like, pat him on the head.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's not the weapons expert or the chemical expert. So
No,
like
he's
he
not supposed to be going. That's not his job.
he doesn't have the expertise. He doesn't have the training, the skills.
Yeah, his job is to manage the response center. He's the special agent in
Exactly.
charge.
Good. I love it. Okay, great. And then I have two bad Marines.
I had a couple of them.
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like we can use all of them.
Yeah, we don't really need
So
to worry about their names and who was who, but like Tony Todd was in there. Like it's so cool, and
I don't know who
Doc
Tony Todd is.
Candyman,
Oh, okay, great.
Candyman, and then Dr. Cox from Scrubs. I mean
We
that
can't
was
use
so.
Dr. Cox from Scrubs.
No, they were in there. They
Oh,
originally.
yes. Yeah,
The
yeah.
original was Dr. Cox and Candyman. But I'm saying like for my Bad
Yeah, no, I
Marines,
know. Like, well,
I
because my big problem was that like I potentially wanted to like the Dr. Cox actor is like so perfect for so many other roles in this. I'm like, but I can't use him. He's in the original.
yeah, it's not appropriate. Like there was
Ah,
like a very small moment at the very beginning when I was thinking about this where I was like, could Nicolas Cage just be the Mason?
I mean, Nicolas Cage would want to be the Mason, but no.
No, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Yeah, well, we switch everything to the British version of the offshore prison.
Which they have one. It's just I don't think it's closed,
Great. Okay, so my
and it's
first
in
Marine,
Northern Ireland.
of course it is. So my first bad Marine is the amputee,
Okay.
but his name is Kurt Yeager. He was
Mm-hmm.
on Quantum Leap. He's SEAL team. He's been like one-off episodes here and there, but like he has the look and he'd be good.
Okay.
Who's one of your bad guys?
Winston Duke,
Winston Duke is fucking great.
big and intimidating.
Yep. If for audience, if you don't know who that is, he's the leader of the gorilla
The
tribe.
Jabari in
The
Wakanda
Jabari in
in the Black
Wakanda.
Panther movies. He's M'Baku. Yeah.
M'Baku, very good. And
Yep.
if you're fancy and you've seen 9 Days, he's the lead in that, and it's very good.
Wasn't there something else? He was also the lead in a horror movie, right? Like
Oh
was
yeah,
it
I don't remember what
Us?
it was, but yes.
It was Us, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
He's a phenomenal actor.
let's see, who else did I have in my murder crew?
My other one is I just pulled someone. It's a guy named Tyler Alvarez. Just a handsome young guy. He was in American Vandal. He's in the new Blockbuster. He was in Orange is the New Black.
That's good. That's good. And then like I had a couple of others, but like the last one I would mention would be like it might be a little too small for him, but like Steven Yeun, I thought he'd be like a good baddie.
Sure.
One role that we didn't cast that or that you didn't mention that I did cast, the SEAL team commander. You got to have your SEAL team commander, who in the movie was Michael Biehn, who is a perpetual, like he's also with that guy, but it's also like Michael Biehn should have been a big. It's like you can reimagine the '80s where like maybe Steven Seagal didn't exist or something, and Michael Biehn got to be in more movies. He should have been more of an action star than he ended up being, but
That would have been better because Steven Seagal is a monster.
he's a piece of shit.
He's awful.
He's really the worst, and he keeps getting worse. Actually, go look him up, everybody. You'll just be amazed.
It's ridiculous. Speaking of dollop episodes, but that was like a 5-part episode of just like he just keeps digging.
He's the worst.
He's the worst. But who did you have for your SEAL team commander?
So I figured it should be kind of a Michael Biehn type, a kind of guy that the audience is going to recognize and be like, oh, this is Kyle Reese. This is the guy who saved Sarah Connor. This is America's hero, America's sweetheart. I went with Captain America. I think Chris Evans is going to die 30 minutes into this movie.
I think if you're casting Chris Evans, you have to make him die 30 minutes into this movie. Like you're like, oh, okay, here's the hero. Like,
this satisfies this trope for me.
Yeah, he shows up 20 minutes into the movie and dies 30 minutes into the movie. So you spend 10 minutes being like, okay,
look at this Dorito chest. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Captain America's going to save the day.
Good. All right, great. Well, that's a lot of people for you, so I'm just going to put a star next to Charles Dance.
Charles Dance it is.
But that brings us to writer and director. I feel pretty good about my writer. I think you might have some complaints about my director.
Well, I didn't really. So for writer, I kind of like fell on myself, and I was like, oh, the people who did Top Gun Maverick, they did a good job. They could do this. It was because I was focusing on the dynamic of like legacy and generational differences, and I was like, maybe that made sense. And then I
Sure.
kind of like looked them up, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like a team of three, and I'm like, I don't know which one to pick. So
Yeah, you don't know which one was the actual writer who did the draft you like,
yeah, I'm not
who
sure.
just got writer's credit because they wrote the original one 30 years ago.
So my writer pick it doesn't exist.
That's fine. So my writer is not that famous. But like he worked on Chuck, he worked on Legends of Tomorrow, and most recently he was the writer behind Ambulance or like Ambulance, the new one, which is supposed to be
Michael
great.
Bay.
It's a yeah,
I've been meaning to
but
see it. It does some cool stuff with drones that I'm really excited about.
right. And like so the original is a Michael Bay movie, it's the new Michael Bay movie, and so someone who kind of like gets that essence and can kind of write it and work it into this new version of The Rock, that felt like kind of the right way to go.
All right, that's
I feel good about this writer.
all right. Cool.
Director, on the other hand,
All
so
right.
director, I wanted someone who is capable of close quarter like action, but also
Uh-huh.
like the big bombastic Michael Bay-ness of it all. So like
Yeah.
someone who like I don't want to lean full Michael Bay of like Michael Bay explosions, meh.
Yeah.
But I also wanted like so like he has done just the dramas and everything.
Uh-huh.
But it's someone who's also good at handling a remake.
Okay.
I went with Ryan Coogler.
Okay.
I mean, because like he's done Fruitvale Station and everything, but at the end of the day, Creed is a remake or it's a reboot,
Hmm. Yeah.
and like Black Panther's the big bombastic action movie,
That's true.
and he's a good director. He does interesting
He
things. He
is.
has
Yeah.
conversations, and he genuinely loves the things that he makes. As
Okay.
long as he enjoys The Rock, I feel like he'd do a good job making the movie. If he
Hmm.
doesn't like it, we can't have him, and that's basically
Mm.
at the end of the day what it comes down to.
Well, I did come up with somebody for director. I
Please,
went with David Leitch or Leitch. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but the guy who directed Atomic Blonde and Deadpool and Bullet Train,
ooh.
and I just think that he does these kind of action things and he does them well, and like he can kind of nail like the sort of vibe and the action that we would want.
I mean, yeah, David Leitch. I don't talk about Atomic Blonde all that much, but I really did enjoy Atomic Blonde.
It's
I think it's
good.
great.
It's really good,
And
and it has a lot of the vibe that I would want.
yeah, I think that's correct. I think you're right. I think we have to do David Leitch.
I love it when I get a test right.
Good. Love it. All
All
right.
right.
So that is our cast. So let me run you through
What
The
have we got?
Rock.
What have we done?
Stanley Goodspeed is going to be played by Daniel Radcliffe.
He's so
John Patrick
little.
Mason will be Charles Dance. General Hummel will be Demi Moore. Major Tom Baxter will be Chukwundi Iwuji. FBI Director Womack will be Lance Reddick. Carla Pestalozzi will be Chloe Bennett. Our Bad Marines will be Kurt Yeager, Tyler Alvarez, Katie Sackhoff, Winston Duke, and Stephen Yuen.
Damn.
Special Agent Paxton will be Joe Manganiello. SEAL Team Commander will be Chris Evans.
He's
All of
gonna
this will be
die.
written by Chris Fedek and directed by David Leitch. That is The Rock.
I like it. I like it. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is going to be fun.
even if it's not The Rock, I just want to see this movie.
I mean, honestly, yeah. Cool. All right, awesome. Chris, thank you so much for making me rewatch The Rock and
Yeah.
remaking this with me.
Thanks for making me rewatch this movie. I haven't seen it in so long, and it's so good.
It's so good. But yeah, why don't we do a little bit and talk about social medias and things you want people listening to do?
Yeah, sure. Well, if you aren't, go ahead and hop onto the Dueling Genre Discord. I don't think you need to be a Patreon supporter to join the Dueling Genre Discord. I'm not
You do
sure where
not.
the instructions are on how to
They're
join us,
in
but you
the
should
show
join
notes of
us.
this very episode.
Hey, Good. And then you can check me out on various podcasts and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Minute. And I've been on past episodes of this one, and I've been in some other stuff. I think I was recently on Franchisography with Scott and Nick. That's a great show if you haven't listened to that one. And
Talking about
yeah.
Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. Star Trek's good stuff. And yeah, you should definitely check out everything on the Dueling Genre Podcast Network.
Agreed. If you're interested in finding me, I'm on Twitter at Sam Gasch, SAMGASCH. Despite all evidence that I should leave Twitter, I'm open to suggestions on which one to go to next.
Nothing's pulled ahead.
That's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
And I don't love social media, so I'm always a late adopter because I'm like, I don't want more. But you can follow the podcast at Ideal Remake on Twitter or mostly on Instagram, which is where it lives. But mostly if you want to get in touch with me, join the Dueling Genre Discord and we can have conversations about what we got wrong and what movies we should cover next. And I will end this episode the same way I end every episode. Chris, what is your favorite quote from the movie The Rock?
Let's cut the chit-chat, a-hole!
And you know it's a good line because it's the line they reference in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
In a deleted scene. God damn it, why did they delete that scene?
I don't know!
It makes you think, like, how many scenes were deleted that we have to see?
How many things did they get Nick Cage to do?
That is also a great movie, and you need to see it if you have not.
Absolutely, yes. Because I haven't seen it, and I need to.
Oh my God.
All right, Chris. Have a good one. Thank you again so much for doing this.
Bye-bye.